Hello, beautiful humans. I am feeling so delicious right now because, as you can see, if you've been following this podcast for since its inception or over the course of the last year, I am now on my next season of life and my next season of the podcast. I changed the cover art, I changed the intro, outro, the music, the description, like the whole resonance has completely shifted. And as I'm recording this, I don't know exactly what I'm titling this episode at the moment, but I got so excited because my podcast peeps, sent me the edits to the new intro and outro, and I was all excited. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just listened to it and I'm like, this feels so right. And so my husband was doing some work in the other room, and I got all giddy like a schoolgirl and ran over to him, and I was like, can I play this for you? And he's like, what is it? And I go, oh, it's my new podcast intro and outro. And he's like, you're doing another one? Even though I feel like I've told him, maybe I haven't. Sometimes I feel like he has selective hearing, especially I've noticed when he's really in his stuff. Like, we've been going through so much transition. I swear I tell him things and he just selectively chooses to not listen. But anyway, that's a story for another day. So I was like, yes, I'm revamping it. Here's why. And he, this is exactly what he said to me. He goes, you are always reinventing yourself. And I was like, yes, I am. And that's what I want to talk about here today. So this is going to be a solo cast where I'm kind of just riffing on the permission to reinvent yourself, because I can't even tell you how good I feel right now. It's kind of like there's some inertia that takes place, there's resistance when you create something, when you birth something. And the woman that I was when I created this podcast last year, I don't even know who that woman is anymore. And it just felt so like if there was so much dissonance in me putting out my episodes every week, even though I know that they were providing value, even though I still enjoyed doing it, there was like this void in the sense that, for example, there's people that I want to bring on the show, and I just felt myself not feeling the desire to really grow the podcast in the way that I know that I want to grow it, in the way that I believe organically it gets to grow. And so it's funny, I was catching up with my friend the other day, and he was like, wait, you're like, I listened to your podcast last week, and he's like, you have everything ready to go already? Like, I was shocked that you're like in the middle of all this transition and you're pregnant and you're moving and you're like ready to go. And I think when I want to talk about rest, because there has been so much transition in my life with moving across state lines and being pregnant and just shifting gears in my business. And in this reinvention time, in this revelation time, as I like to call it. But rest does not mean stopping to me. And so I've learned that when I was overly exhausted because I was out of alignment, resting used to mean stopping completely. And now, because I am attuned and aware, there's this sense of, okay, when something isn't working anymore, I've really attuned to what gets to leave my field, what gets to be dissolved, what do I get to let go, in order for me to feel rested, to feel replenished, to feel rejuvenated, so that I can still keep putting one foot in front of the other and moving forward. And that is a beautiful place to be. And what's interesting, and I'm going to bring this back to the gene keys, is so in my activation sequence, which has the four main spheres, which is life's work, evolution, radiance, and purpose, I'm aligned 3 in my radiance and purpose. So my radiance is what keeps me healthy, and my purpose is really my way of beingness, of why I came to this planet. And I'm aligned 3 for both of those. And the line 3 is all about movement. And so it's interesting that I'm aligned 3 because it's all about moving your body as a form of rest. Like, I can't actually, when I'm stagnant and when I'm still, it actually cripples me. And so I've learned to rest while moving in a lot of ways. And not everybody's like that. That's not everybody's genetic makeup and everybody's journey. And so, for me, I take baths, of course. That's resting, but I move my body. I mean, I'm moving my body multiple times a day right now, going on walks, gentle stretching, working out, just giving myself a lot of dynamic type of rest. And that's kind of how I'm moving through life now. And so the way that I would describe this is like exhaustion used to lead me to completely having to stop, which put me in a sense of inertia, which actually made it that much more difficult to start back up again. Versus now, there's a sense of resolve that's happening where I start to notice, like, actually, yesterday and today was a great example. We did our gender reveal. I guess I get to share because I haven't shared it on the podcast yet. I am having a beautiful baby boy, and I talk about it. If you're on my email list or if you're connected with me on social media, I actually talk about the journey, the spirit baby journey of girl versus boy, spirit baby energies. But I'll get into that in another episode because I'm definitely going to be talking much more about my motherhood journey now that I've been really sharing it more publicly. But we had our gender reveal a couple of days ago, and we've been looking at houses every day. And, for a while, Chad was out of town and I was kind of by myself here getting acclimated, and now he's back. And so we've just been doing a lot more. And finally, the day after our gender reveal, I think obviously there's lots of emotions leading up to that, lots of excitement. We actually went out afterwards. I stayed up later than I normally do. And yesterday and today, I'm just like, okay, I'm feeling exhausted. I'm feeling I like I could just feel that if I kept going at the rate that I was going at, that it would have my body would have physically been like, no more. And it actually started to feel like how it felt in my first trimester, where I just felt like I got hit by a truck every single day. And the only option was to nap and to sleep and to stop and to completely stop. And so, prime example is yesterday I had a pretty full schedule. I had some coaching calls with clients. That's usually my full coaching call day. I had a podcast recording. I went out to look at houses. It was just a stacked day for me with work and everything else. And by the end of the day, I could feel it. I was feeling uncomfortable. I was feeling just totally burnt out. And I had a beautiful sleep last night. I slept really well. And today, every morning I set intentions of, I'm like, okay, what are 3 things that I want to intend for my day? And I do it right when I'm in bed so that I'm still in that kind of in-between state and I don't let my mind decide. And today was presence, relaxation. Oh gosh, what was the other one? It was presence, relaxation, and connectedness. Those were the 3 that emerged in terms of how I wanted to experience my day. And I'm having lunch actually with a woman who I believe is going to be part of my birth team. I'm having lunch with her. But all I did was gentle yoga this morning. I woke up, I sat outside, I read a little bit from one of my physiological birth pregnancy books, and Chad was like, what do you want to do later? Do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? And I just said no. I'm like, not today. Tomorrow's a new day. But for now, I really just want to honor exactly where I'm at with my energy, and I'm kind of letting each moment to moment dictate what happens next. And he of course was like, oh yeah, that makes so much sense. And so that is such a beautiful thing as I'm circling back to the permission to reinvent yourself, and also this idea of just because I'm changing things in my business, just because I'm slowing down, just because I'm in so much transition, it doesn't mean that everything in my life stops. And it's such a beautiful place to be when you can really create harmony in this way. I've let so many things go. I mean, the way that I was running my business, I was doing group programs. I had 2 different group program offerings. I completely let those go, and right now I'm doing private mentorship only. And I'm loving it, and I'm loving what's emerging in terms of my intuitive abilities, in terms of the beautiful beings that are coming into my field that are asking for support from me at this time, and just how effortlessly those, you know, relationships are being co-created. And I feel like the reason why my group programs weren't working and why I wasn't feeling it just like there was just, I just knew that it wasn't right, was because this child requires flexibility. Motherhood requires flexibility. This move requires flexibility, and coaching and mentoring privately allows for that. Like, I essentially, truly, for the first time ever, am 100% fully creating my schedule essentially on a day by day basis. Do I have things scheduled? Yes, but all of them can be changed. And so again, it's like, that's not everybody's journey, but this is the season that I'm in right now, and this is what feels really good. And so I had, a paid in full contract come through, a 6-month paid in full contract come through from somebody that reached out to me a couple of weeks ago, and we executed the contract within days, and we're already, started our, we already had our first call together. And, so it's like money is coming in, right? Like paid in full, clients are coming in. My service work is coming in. The updates to the podcasts are coming in, right? Like grounding into me being in North Carolina. And what's fascinating is Chad is also, he's really stepping up. And it's so funny watching him. He's back at CrossFit, and just how he's upping his nutrition and supplement game, how I'm watching him network, how I'm watching him grow his business up here and settle into all of that. And it's actually like, there's this newfound sense of like, it's really sexy to me. And I keep being like, oh my gosh, it's so sexy to me to watch him take full responsibility of his life. And there was a point where he was, struggling as not struggling as a business owner. I should say he was very successful in his first year of entrepreneurship. It was mostly that I meant like there's a lot of growth that happens, and I meant struggling more with like mental health and just like the anxiety that kind of comes up, and the pressure of owning your own business, which I have experienced all of those things. I don't know any entrepreneur that hasn't experienced that. There's a total shift in how you get to show up for yourself, which is why, right, everybody thinks that they want to be their own boss until they're their own boss, and they realize how much they were still shackled in that corporate structure, right? In that structure of that employee mindset and working for somebody else. And there's a lot that happens in terms of self-confidence, in terms of your capabilities, in terms of knowing when to turn off your entrepreneurial brain, and when to start work and when to stop work, and how everything kind of merges together. And there's just so many, it's such an identity transformation time. And so I was really just doing my best to give him the space to be in that process, because it's totally natural and normal. And I just knew that being in North Carolina, right, change in environment, like completely new town, we have a child on the way, and he really has completely stepped up. Like, okay, like no more fucking around. We're both kind of in this place of like, this child is bringing this like, we're not fucking around energy anymore. Like, we know the life that we deserve. We know the life we want to live. We've been really setting ourselves up in terms of how we've been moving through our relationship, how we've been growing, setting ourselves up for this adventure of moving and now stepping into parenthood. There's so much growth, and I love this shit. But Chad's like, oh my gosh, he really has. I'm actually so proud of him, because there's this deep-rooted fear of failure and change that is, we all carry to some degree, but he really does like stability. And he really is afraid of failing and changing and letting himself down and letting others down. And so I just keep reminding him and celebrating him of, you have, like, do you know what you've done for yourself? Like, you're still in, like, right, you're still in the middle of this transformative process, but like, can you really like honor and reflect on how much you've done and how much that affects your nervous system and how much disruption like how much disruption happens in the body when you're breaking old patterns and, you know, in this reclamation time. And so I've been doing my best to give him space and to not really mother him. Like, as I'm stepping into motherhood, I'm like, I don't want to mother you. I don't want to be your coach. I want to be your wife. And that's when I had some conversations with him about, you know, this is about you. Like, because I kept, you know, there was always this point of like, do you want this life? You know, do you want, right? When we would dream and then we would start to actualize the dream, like he would have fear, right? And I would just be like, just making sure you still want to do this, like, because you can say no. And every time he said yes. And so I learned that, right, we're wired a bit differently, where I really love growth. I love being in the instability. I love taking risks. I mean, has it been challenging? Absolutely. Has it been excruciating at times? Absolutely. But I really do love it. And again, I see where he grounds me. I see where he brings me back to the simplicity of life, which so much of this podcast is actually attributed to him being one of my greatest teachers in this way, being connected with reality, being grounded, the simple pleasures of life. Like, he really brings me back into that. And I teach him to take risks, to dream, to vision, to not just have a dream, to actually actualize it, to actually go for it. And this is where we're such a beautiful, I always say, we make up a whole person. We truly make up a whole person. And even that simple comment of like, you're always reinventing yourself. And that I recognize that a lot of people, that like, that's not their, of course it's scary as fuck to reinvent yourself. Like, it is dark night of the soul. It is you meeting parts of yourself deep from within. It is total disruption of the nervous system. It is rewriting old paradigms and repatterning the subconscious. Like, it is a big deal. And I want this episode to be about the full permission to reinvent yourself. And that doesn't mean like, it gets to be gentle and it gets to be at your pace. And that's what I'm recognizing for Chad. Like, I can't expect him to reinvent himself in the same means and methods that I do, because I see how he operates. Like, I see what, you know, what safety means to him, and how we're wired differently to move forward in life and take action and make decisions and all of the things. So for me to expect him to be like me is bullshit. And everything that I teach is around the power of choice and the individuated experience of what it means to be human, and honoring his process, right? While also leading by example and inspiring him and supporting him and giving space and cheering him on and reminding him of who the fuck he is when he has those moments of doubt, and he does the same for me. And so I think him just reflecting back to me at that reinvention piece is one of my gifts. It's something that innately is inside of me, and the power of changing your mind, right? Like, I am in a completely different season of my life. I'm in a different geographic area. I'm stepping into motherhood. The roles in my relationship are changing. How we make money is changing. Our roles are changing. How much I'm working is changing. I mean, there's so many things. And I get to evolve my work with it. And it's not like I'm redoing it. It's not that I'm like made a mistake and started something one way and now I'm beating myself up. It's like, nope, that served its purpose. That was a stepping stone. And now I'm here and I am so fucking excited. I just feel so, it's like, oh my gosh, it feels so right. It feels so right. And now I can feel confident to let this podcast soar, because I do believe that there's something here with the podcast, because it's what I keep coming back to it. So when other things feel challenging, and don't get me wrong, like being seen on the podcast, self-expressing, using my voice, talking about intimate things, even just the amount of energy, like creating the podcast each week and editing and recording, and I mean all of it is, it's a lot of work, right? But it's like there's a sense of like divinity in my productivity. Like I think about when everything keeps coming back to labor now because I'm in this season, but me wanting to have a physiological birth, me wanting to birth my baby at home, you know, there's this sense of like, I know it's going to be work, but that doesn't mean it's going to be hard. That doesn't mean I need to be in fear about it. That doesn't mean that I need to resist it. Like, so, and I feel like I've been preparing myself for this birthing experience because I love the work. I really do. And especially when I can tell, like, oh, my soul, I just love sharing with you. I love interviewing people. I love hearing their perspective. I love sharing my perspective. I love getting messages from you all about what's supporting you. I love feeling like I'm doing my part for the collective in sharing the wisdom that I've gleaned over the years and, through my experience and, through the wisdom that already resides within me, et cetera, right? Like it just feels so good. And so the messaging here is, whether you're like myself or like my honey, that permission piece and the grace of having an idea, having a dream, having something that you're like, this just feels so right, and giving yourself the grace and knowing that the cells in your body are going to do everything within their power to resist that change and to really honor what it takes to move forward in that direction of what sets your soul on fire, and dissolve the programming and the conditioning and the belief systems, and allowing yourself to change your mind in any given moment, because we're dynamic. And like, I'm 22 minutes into this episode and I'm not the same woman that I was 22 minutes ago. Right? Like, because as I'm sharing with you, I'm actually also processing as I'm sharing with you, right? So it's the same for you. You're not the same person, because something that I'm sharing here is activating you. Something inside of you is helping you remember. Something in this episode is helping you connect the dots. It's activating a part of you that maybe perhaps has lied dormant. It's perhaps crystallized something in yourself. And so for us to expect us to not change our mind is bullshit. And to me, reinvention is the epitome of evolution, and that's why we're here. And I love talking about this stuff because it really helps you begin to separate yourself from the experience, in the sense that you just don't attach to it in the same way. Like, again, going back to the labor process, like pain, right? It's like emotions. I don't attach to pain and emotions in the way that I once did, which is why I know that I've primed myself for this experience of birthing my baby in the way that I desire, in the way that feels safest to me, in the way that allows me to have an experience where I feel it all and experience ecstasy, which to me, ecstasy is experiencing the full spectrum of life. It doesn't mean that there's no pain. It doesn't mean that there's no doubt. It doesn't mean that there's no fear. It doesn't mean that there's no intensity. It's welcoming all of it. And because I've dove deep into the pain, into the sensation over the years, and been able to love that pain back into wholeness, love that sensation back into wholeness, I feel like I have a completely different relationship with reinvention, where I live for it. And that is the medicine of this episode, is first episode of this next season of me in my reinvention time, in my revelation time. And who knows, maybe in a year from now, there'll be another intro and outro. I could be changing my intro and outro every year for the rest of this podcast. I have no idea. And that's exciting because it allows for so much freedom and liberation to not feel like if I do this thing that I'm like prisoner of it, right? Just because I created this thing doesn't mean that I'm shackled to it forever. It means this is what I'm creating now in this moment at where I'm at this level of consciousness, and who knows what the heck that's going to look like a year from now. And I do believe that that's what's allowed me to evolve so quickly, and because of my willingness to just meet that with so much reverence and, meet the excruciating moments with reverence, the intense moments with reverence, truly. So that is the permission slip. Whatever you take from this episode of even witnessing me make changes to the podcast, and maybe there's confusion with people. Honestly, I don't even know. I haven't even thought about it. I am so sure that this is what I needed to do for the podcast that I haven't even thought of like anything else other than I just get to redo it, so there is that permission slip of you just witnessing me in the shifting of the podcast, or also perhaps listening to this riff around reinvention. Like, I believe that we came here to evolve, to self-express, and in that is reinvention. Right? Because if we're not evolving, there's no, right? When we evolve, it's new layers of us that are being exposed, that is truly where the remembrance resides. And so the invitation is to kind of look at what areas of your life are asking to be looked at, to be revealed to you in terms of revelation time and reinvention. Is it with your partner? Is it with your respect for your body? Is it with your line of work? Is it with your health? And this is where it's so powerful. Like, this child, I have never felt so excited to nourish my body in my life. Like, it's just a non-negotiable of moving my body, nourishing my body, even to the point where I went to Whole Foods with Chad the other day, and he was like, oh my gosh, you're getting all these like fruits and veggies that I've never seen you eat before. And I'm like, I just want variety. I want new things. Like, I already am like, I want this child to be eating all of this variety of things. And I'm noticing my taste buds are changing. I'm noticing when I don't like something, I really don't like it. And when there is something so delicious that hits my tongue, I am just like groaning with delight. Like, I'm just like, I'm so vocal. It's just I can feel things in such a deeper way. I can sense things in such a deeper way, even with food. And it's just allowing me to experience life in such a different way. And there's a part of me that was like, why did I not do this shit sooner? And who knows, like, right? So I had that moment with the mental chatter, and then it's like, it doesn't matter. This was my journey, and this is the integration of everything that I've been moving through over the course of the last several years of my awakening journey. And the energy that this child is bringing to me is up-leveling me in so many ways. And I know that this is going to continue once the child is here, and beyond, because it's like, oh my gosh, I want to experience life. Like, I want to taste the things. Like, I want to have the experiences. I want to see the world. I want to be present. I want to not miss what's right in front of me because I'm distracted by other things. And again, I just want to point out, I know that it's a challenging world with so many distractions, and it really does take a commitment, a devotion. It's a truly courageous revolutionary act to do something different, to reinvent, to say no to the numbing, to the avoiding, and to the distraction, which is why so many people are struggling, because it's a really challenging thing. So I feel like my husband teaches me in so many ways of how much of the collective operates in terms of the resistance to change. And, you know, I can see why we chose each other in this lifetime, of what we get to support each other with, and teaching each other and learning from each other. And he really does help me see, because I'm wired so differently, that he really does help me see how much of humanity is hurting, struggling, and resisting the reinvention process. So I think I'm going to leave it there. Permission slip to fully allow for the reinvention. You get to take your time, right? You get to get curious. You get to change your mind. You get to explore what reinvention would even look like for you. You get to dream. You get to vision, right? You get to connect to the emotions of what this reinvention will do for your life, and how you'll feel, and everything in between. And what a gift. What a gift. So if this supports you, please, please, please reach out to me and let me know. If you want to drop me some love, and yeah, send me a love note via email or social media, and just let me know what you think about my reinvention process, with where the messaging is going for the podcast. I would absolutely love to hear from you. And may this episode serve as medicine for you to follow your dharma, follow your heart, follow what your soul is asking of you and guiding you towards. And I hope you have a beautiful, 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 beautiful day. Much love, fam.